2024 was the year that Star Wars died. We talked about this earlier this week, but to just really drive this home, there was no year that had more repeated blows to the head of this IP than this past year. Remember, kicking off the entire year with Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's self-promotion tour, "It's time for a woman to take control of Star Wars," and then the brand doing massive amounts of PR to make you forget about that disaster, only to follow it up with easily the worst live-action TV show that they've ever produced. It could just be the worst thing that they've ever done. Obviously, there are installments in the franchise that are more high profile and did more damage, but as a show, as a singular product, I think The Acolyte was in fact the straw that broke the camel's back. It already had a couple of herniated discs because of The Last Jedi, Rise of the Skywalker, and J.J. Abrams in general, but The Acolyte destroyed it. And then also, Star Wars Outlaws also brought a teaspoon in order to dig that grave a little bit deeper. And so optimism for the brand moving forward, oh boy, it is very sparse to say the least. Because if you cast your mind back to, what was that, June and July when The Acolyte was airing, it was one of those strange phenomenons where the coverage of the show was getting far more eyeballs than the show itself. It was that weird phenomenon where the hate watchers vastly outstripped the so-called fans of the show, because we've seen with all of their petitions throughout the year, there's literally dozens of people who unironically like this show for very interesting reasons. But now, because there's enough time passed between this, and you can go back on Monday where we talked about this a little bit more in depth, you finally had the admission from somebody at Disney to come out and finally say, yeah, the viewing figures weren't exactly where we needed them to be, and that's why we aren't going to be moving forward. So final confirmation that, yeah, The Acolyte Season 2 isn't going to be happening anytime soon, and frankly, not a lot's going to be happening under the Star Wars banner anytime soon. But Disney Entertainment co-chair Alan Bergman confesses The Acolyte was a financial disaster, oopsie daisy, in a blunt admission that demonstrates Disney's ongoing struggles with mismanaged Star Wars projects. Alan Bergman, co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, revealed why the ill-fated canceled series The Acolyte was axed after a single season. I guess he was making multiple stops, because I think the other comment was either made to Variety or The Hollywood Reporter. But yeah, speaking with Vulture, Bergman didn't mince words about the show's failure, highlighting it as an extravagant misallocation of resources that couldn't sustain a second installment. "We were happy with our performance, but it wasn't where we needed it to be, given the cost structure of the title, quite frankly, to go and make a season 2. So that's the reason why we didn't do that," which is crazy, right? Because the show, I've watched reviews of this, especially when it was coming out. Oh my god, everybody who was doing anything on it, it was all funny as hell, and it was great stuff to watch back in the day. But specifically talking about EFAP's episode by episodes, watch-alongs, breakdown, and stuff like that, I've seen it at least a half dozen times. It's a really good watch. It was very funny stuff, but I could not see that $230 million on the screen. That was abysmal. Sure, they shot on location a bunch of different times, but it was very claustrophobic environments, and it's not like they splurged on the talent. Holy crap, was that just... It was so devoid. I was going to say it was most deficient the way that it spent its money, but this was just such a failure, or I guess it would be a success black hole, because every single aspect of this show failed so spectacularly. Even Lee Jung-jae, who's going to be in Squid Game here, I guess maybe by the time that you guys see this video, Squid Game Season 2 has already been released, but even his good performance on the show ended up being undercut by a spectacular amount of character assassination. So The Acolyte was not just another addition to the Star Wars universe. The series brought to life Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant Leslie Headland was a financial black hole. UK tax documents unearthed by that Park Place revealed Lucasfilm and Disney shelled out a staggering £172 million sterling, approximately $231 million for a series production, with a mere 8 episodes that normally ran without recaps, without credits, about 24 to 27 minutes. Disregarding the first and the final episodes, it's like you did not get a bang for your buck. So yeah, that $28.75 million per episode gets even worse if you break it down to dollars per minute. Figure highlights, yeah. Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy's reckless spending of Disney shareholder money without regard for audience engagement or narrative integrity. And yeah, that's really going to be put to test, because the next live action series that's coming out, Well, it's going to be Andor Season 2. And for the people that watched the first season, which, yeah, didn't have the greatest ratings, it was much better than The Acolyte. And people are actually looking forward to that series. One that was slated to have multiple seasons, but unfortunately has to be wrapped up with Season 2 because Kathleen Kennedy wants the brand to move in bigger and better directions, but Tony Gilroy, the guy responsible for the one lone success story that they've had under the Disney umbrella, he can just, I don't know, tell a story walking. It's kind of crazy, right? Now we're getting some data on that, and well, even if it's fantastic, okay, even if the narrative integrity is somehow maintained or even improved upon in Season 2, it cannot hope to recoup any of these losses. This is once again a money pit, and I echo the sentiment. Where is the money going? Disney Lucasfilm spent over $500 million on the Andor budget. What the hell are we doing? But that's another thing. Andor Season 1, what was it, 12 episodes? Okay, it still pales in comparison to what network television used to do with the series, and I think still does, 22 to 24 episodes per season. But you could see like real graphical fidelity when it came to the special effects. They had legitimate sets that looked very good, screws and nails notwithstanding. So even though it cost quite a pretty penny, you could see most of that money on the screen. It made sense they spent that much money on it. Also because it had a very talented cast as well. But even still, man, you're throwing down $500 million on this? I don't get it. Disney's reported budget for the first 2 seasons of Andor ballooned to over $500 million amid diminishing returns. Because, yeah, here's the thing. As great as the show is, very few people are watching it. And especially with all of the brand damage that it received in 2024, it's going to be tough to know if it's going to improve on Season 2, where prior to this disastrous year, you would have thought it would have been tracking. But how many people are going to give Star Wars the benefit of the doubt moving forward? I don't know. I legitimately don't know. In an era where streaming platforms are vying for viewer attention and ever-expanding libraries, a Disney Star Wars series Andor stands out, not for its storytelling, but for its astronomical budget. Oh no, definitely for its storytelling. Let's not diminish that, okay? Costs soaring, wow, words are hard, to a staggering $645 million. I beg your pardon? Andor exemplifies what many critics are calling ridiculous bloat for a streaming show whose viewership metrics don't justify such expenditures. Bro, that much money to put on the Super Bowl isn't even justifiable. That is crazy. And yeah, it might be great. Season 2 might be fantastic. It might end up breaking that trend of shows with incredibly fantastic Season 1s only to follow it up with dogshit Season 2s. It might break that curse. I hope it does for the people that are watching. Unless somebody's doing like a breakdown of it, I'm not going to check it out because Star Wars really isn't my jam. And honestly, rewarding Disney with viewership, especially Lucasfilm at this point in time, I can't justify it at all. Disney has disclosed, not dislocated. That's what they're going to be doing with their jaw when it eventually hits the table, when they come to the realization of how dead their brand really is. But the second season alone cost a record-breaking $290 million. I beg your pardon, marking the highest ever annual spending on a Star Wars production. Yo! To put this, into perspective, the figure eclipses the $280 million spent on The Last Jedi over an 11-month period and significantly surpasses the $243.8 million allocated to The Force Awakens during its production cycle. Yeah, but there's some rumors behind the scenes that Rise of Skywalker got real damn close to, Captain Black Falcon America Man numbers, but the actual finances will never really be known because that thing was reshot, then reshot. So it's tough to say, but for the actual financials that are there, that's ridiculous. The second season's budget is expected to climb even higher. Great. Filming, which commenced in November of 2022, faced interruptions due to the SAG-AFTRA strike prolonging the shoot and inflating costs further. Principal photography wrapped in February, but post-production, a year-long process laden with expensive visual effects, continues to drain the resources. So $300 million is definitely there. It's just how far into the $300 million are we talking? Andor boasts less than impressive viewership numbers, with its finale amassing 674 million minutes watched on Disney Plus. These figures pale in comparison when scrutinized against its budget. But yeah, for Lucasfilm at this point in time, they would be starving to reach that 674 million minutes watched marker now. But yes, The Acolyte, another Star Wars spin-off, has a budget exceeding $230 million, according to UK tax filings. The Acolyte struggled with viewership, garnering over 50% fewer minutes watched than Andor. And this directly led to the cancellation of its second series. But that's not something that, like I said before, Andor really has to concern itself with, because we know that this is the conclusion. But honestly, man, these budgets like this and this amount of apathy from the audience, this is wild, man. This has to be a money laundering scheme. There's no way in hell, because yeah, there's a bunch of sets that they can reuse for the second season. There's no reason for this to cost $290 million plus. That's wild. It just goes to show you and really support the idea that if you thought 2024 was bad for Star Wars, you just wait for 2025 when Andor is the only live action show, and how quickly they're going to fade from the public consciousness. Better hope you have something spectacular to announce at Star Wars Celebration, because otherwise you're going to be twisting in the wind for the entire year, and people are going to have an opportunity to really look back at that resume and figure out, why exactly is Kathleen Kennedy still here? So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.